This is Faith Family Cars Podcast. I'm Jerry.
I'm Zach.
Hit the key.
For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, I am the one who helps you. That was Isaiah 41:13.
Hey guys, welcome back to Faith Family Cars Podcast, and we've got another very special guest with us today. So I know that this young lady is very special to Zach, especially.
Yep.
It's a lot of specials.
Yeah.
But she's very special to our entire family. So
Yeah.
Zach, why don't you introduce your special person, your lovely wife?
Yeah, this is my wife, Angel. You've probably seen her a little bit. She's done a couple verses for us. But
Maybe like twice. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
But
Could do a little bit more, but
Yeah.
Encourage her, guys, because she does really good. You know, as a new Christian, sometimes we need a little encouragement.
Yeah.
that is very true.
yeah. So this is Angel. We've been together for almost 5 years now.
Yeah, July.
We got married in August, and she's the one that puts up with all my shenanigans, all these long nights working on cars and stuff. So, yeah,
Something like putting up with it.
yeah,
Something like that.
yeah. So yeah, we've been together for 5 years. Got married on August 23rd, and well, do you want to tell how we first met?
Okay, so I guess we're gonna go into that. We met. Oh gosh, what was it? The day after my birthday, 2021.
Yes, it was May 29th, 2021.
Yeah.
No, it was 2020.
2020
was
was it?
2020.
Yeah, it was like peak COVID at that time.
Yeah.
I had a friend. She was kind of texting this guy. She's this guy, and he asked Zach to come along and meet us up at Dairy Queen over here in town. And because that's what we were doing during COVID. You couldn't go anywhere, social
Yeah.
distancing and everything. And we were just sitting outside. We got some blizzards, stuff like that. And he asked Zach to come, and I was nervous.
Well, I
didn't
gotta
okay.
say though.
What are you gonna say?
I gotta
Okay.
say, he asked me to come, but that was not like me. I didn't just
Yeah.
go and meet random girls. That wasn't what I
Yeah.
did. I had worked. That was a Thursday or a Friday. It was a Thursday or
Boy.
Friday, but I wouldn't say it was a Thursday because because I was not gonna go at all. I wasn't gonna go because I worked a full-time job and I worked on semi-trucks and trailers. It was the hardest labor job I ever worked, and it was just when I came home I was tired. I came home, played video games, went to bed. That's what I did every single night. So me going out to meet some random girl I didn't even know what she looked like. I didn't know anything about her. He's just like, hey, there's 2 girls here, come hang out with us. So I was like, all right, and that was not like me at all. That's not something I would do because I blow them off I used to blow them off all the time during the week because I was like, I've just got done working, I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, anyway, continue. I had to throw that out there because just to say it was meant to be,
No, I've always thought it was meant to be, especially with just like certain things like our addresses. They're very similar too. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
too.
the numbers of our addresses are
and then
the
like the
same.
name and everything.
Yeah, it's weird. I'll tell you after the podcast.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's
Probably
weird.
shouldn't say that here. But yeah, obviously I was really nervous. Guys weren't really an interest of mine. Like, I wasn't too big into going out and just meeting random guys. I didn't talk to guys in school. If they came to me, whatever. That's kind of what happened. And Zach came to me, and I remember, was it the day that we met? I was like, oh, I like your car.
Yes, yeah.
Because I knew how to get to him because he had a Mustang. He pulled in. It was real loud.
It was a 94.
revving.
It was a 94 Mustang GT.
Whatever.
It was a beautiful car. My favorite car I've ever owned.
He actually wrecked that car very soon into us
I
getting
did.
together.
Yeah, I did.
Let her tell her story.
I'm sorry. I gotta get into the Mustang, man. Look, this is a car podcast.
These guys don't care about the Mustang.
They do.
I want to hear her talk
this,
about
this is a car podcast. I gotta let the guys know what it was.
Yeah.
1994 Mustang
Right.
GT 5.05
And he
speed.
came in revving.
I did.
Yep,
I did.
He did
That
come
is
in revving.
typical.
Cars
Yes.
were my whole life, man.
Back then, now he's not too bad about it now, but he
I've
used
gotten
to be
older.
very obnoxious with his cars up until maybe a year ago.
When I got
A
the
little-
Xterra, when I
maybe
got the
2 years,
Xterra, I
yeah.
calmed down.
Yeah,
because
because-
even with the Ranger, I was still stupid.
Maybe. Anyways, I knew how to get to his heart, his car. And I remember going home and telling my mom that night, I was like, Mom, I think I'm in love. And listen, it was just, I don't know. There was something about it. I don't know what it was, but I knew this guy. I knew it was going to be something more than just meeting this guy one day. And yeah.
That's pretty cool, though.
I swear to you, my mom could tell you that because I remember her telling Zach about it, and I was so embarrassed. I was like, Mom, I didn't say that. Like, why would I say that, Mom? That's crazy. Don't say that. Don't tell him that.
She did tell me.
I think I
would
remember
embarrass
that.
Angel like
yes,
all the time.
she
It was
loved to
so
embarrass
funny.
me. But I'll admit to it now because we're married and we've been together for almost 5 years, so whatever.
So what's funny is we went to Dairy Queen that day, and I came in revving with my car. Well, we went to Dairy Queen the very next day too.
Yeah.
We all hung out again, same place, same spot, everything. And that night,
Guess what he did? Yeah, he went and raced somebody.
okay, that night I had a buddy who I'd been talking up like I was gonna beat him in a race, which honestly I should have. It was a weird situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went out and raced, and her friend followed behind me, and we went out to like this middle of Mexico in an industrial park in Mexico somewhere, and we raced out there, and the guy counting us down was an idiot, so I bogged off the line because he said on the count of he said when I say 1, y'all go, and then he counted up to 3. So anyway, and then he was like on go, and then he said like 1, 2, 3, and then just ran, and I was like, okay. So I bogged off the line. I ended up getting beat by a dually Silverado.
He should have won.
Oh my
That was a
goodness.
diesel.
He should have won.
I should have gapped him, but I was up at 3,000 RPM ready to take off, and then
He was nervous because I was there. That's why.
well, I don't even think y'all got to see the race, did you? Did y'all get to watch the race? I think
I
y'all
wanna-
got lost because we ended up driving through
I
this
don't
gravel
know.
path to get there instead of just going straight
Yeah.
there. We drove through some weird
I know
gravel
we were
path.
there though, and I'm pretty sure I have a picture.
Yeah, you
I
do.
I wouldn't be able to
you
find
have,
it
you have
now,
a picture. You have a picture of you sitting in the front seat of her car, and it's
Yeah.
the back of my car.
Yeah.
And we're in this dark gravel
Yeah.
road where, you know where it's at, where we go fishing.
Okay.
Yeah, we were out at that dark gravel road.
Yeah, it was kind of sketch. I was really nervous.
Yeah,
But whatever.
yeah. Anyway,
Because that was not me until I met Zach. I would not do that kind of stuff.
oh, we did. We got into some really sketchy situations.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember. It's kind of hard to explain where this is without explaining where we live.
Okay,
But-
we were in downtown, a very sketchy downtown area that is not a safe area whatsoever. This
No.
was
In the
this was-
middle of the night.
and this was when we had got together. Okay, so before we get there, I didn't want to date her. I didn't want to date her at all. I didn't want to be in a relationship because I will say the relationship I had right before I got cheated on. I just didn't want to be with another woman for a while. I was just ready to be done with it, focus on my car, focus on my job, and that was it. And then she came along, and I let her chase me for about a month, and then I was
yeah,
like,
I was the one who chased.
yes, she chased
Me.
She chased me for a month, and I was like, I guess I'll do it. And so we started
Whatever.
dating. So the night of July 4th, me and her hung out the whole day. Okay, and this is how I knew that this was right.
Yeah, and my
Because-
mom never let me stay out late, and we
Yes.
stayed out until
2 or 3
2 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, her mom let her stay out. She was never allowed to. But anyway, that day, it was July 4th, and we went out to the park. And this is how I knew that I was making the right decision by telling her, asking her out that night, was she just started taking pictures of my car. Just like started getting all the different
Oh,
angles
yeah,
and
I
stuff. I
remember
have
that.
all those pictures on my phone still.
Getting to his heart.
Yeah.
I knew. I was smart.
So then that night we ended up going to Mexico again and watching some other people race, and then that same night, the people that were supposed to be there racing, one dude had like 10 grand on the line, and the guy never showed up. And it was supposed to be some big race.
can't believe you
Nobody
remember
ever
all
ended
that.
up happening to be
Yeah.
there. It was like a couple guys made some test passes, but then we went to the next spot that everybody said to go, which was the super ghetto sketchy place that we just kind of should not have been there. We ended up going right down the road that they were racing on, and they were like, "Turn around, get out of here!"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we got scared and we left.
Yeah, there was just like, I'm not joking. There was probably like hundreds of people standing
Yeah, just
at the
standing
end of
around the
this
outside
road,
of the
and we
road.
drove right in the middle of it. We're lucky we didn't get hit.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
but
were.
no, it was extremely scary and sketchy. But we used to go to Mexico together a whole lot, and we just kind of slowly stopped. I mean, I will say the car scene kind of got really bad there for a little bit.
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of
A lot of takeovers, and
yeah.
actually at some of our local car scenes, there's some shootings going on.
Yeah,
I
got
actually
some
had
crazy stuff
had a buddy who the guy that actually introduced me to her. He was at one of these car meets, and he had to duck behind his car because somebody started shooting
Yeah.
at one of these car meets. So
Some crazy stuff.
it got pretty wild there for a little bit, but
So, Angel, you enjoy, I think, certain car events that we go to.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
one in particular, you usually like to go to Ford Fest.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't go this
Yeah.
year because it rained the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
nobody really went.
I was gonna say I'm kind of glad I didn't go because I knew I wouldn't have enjoyed
So
it this year. but-
what event there do you really enjoy?
I really enjoy the drifting. Every time we go, I tell Zach, I'm like, I've never really been big into cars. You know, when me and Zach met, it kind of became part of my life, you know, unwillingly, whatever. But I actually enjoy it now. I want to drift cars so bad. Every time we go to Ford Fest, I just watching them, I'm like, a drift car now.
She wants to ride with
I
Von
want
Gittin
one
Jr.
so-
every
Yes.
year.
Every time we go, they do drawing. I think they do like a raffle or
Yeah,
something to
something
do a
like
ride
that.
along with the drifters. I'm like, I want to ride with Von Gittin Jr. so bad, and Zach never enters me into the raffle to let me ride along with
Because
him.
it's not
It's
a cheap it's not a
expensive. It's
cheap
very
thing.
expensive.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I
Yeah.
think it was like $100
Yeah.
just to have a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that was also a couple years ago. I don't know if it's the same thing anymore,
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
know how they do
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it was. Yeah, we'll eventually get you into something. It's just cars aren't cheap,
No.
Oh, no.
No.
especially a performance car.
But
Yeah.
it's got you interested in wanting to learn how to drive
Yeah.
and drive in motorsports,
Yeah,
right? So,
for sure.
and I think that opportunity is going to be lining up for you pretty soon.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
that's going to
Yeah.
be fun.
yeah.
Hopefully, I can get my own car at some point too.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
if this opportunity happens to completely go through and do what I think it will, I think we'll get you a car
Yeah.
fairly soon.
So,
And,
what kind of
yeah.
car do you want?
Well,
yeah, y'all better
okay.
be ready for this.
Okay, so I don't have a track car in mind per se, but I do want a Miata to drift.
Now, what
Whatever,
generation?
basic.
What generation?
What is it? The NAs?
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
the
pop-up
90s.
headlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like every other girl wants.
But I haven't lost my love for those. It's been
It's been
like
3-4
5.
years.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've not changed my mind on those. Now I would like a Mustang.
we
that's
we taught her
basic, too.
right. We taught her right though to get a Ford. She
No, yeah.
she
Ford
is
all the way, buddy.
She is definitely me. She's my taste just portrayed on a woman is what it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm like we only like Fords. We don't like Chevys here, and that's what she'll tell people too.
Yep.
Anytime anybody has trouble with their Chevy, she's like, that's a
That's
Chevy.
'cause
That's
it's a
why.
Chevy.
That's why I got her saying the right stuff.
Or
So-
don't buy
right.
Dodge.
Listen here, Mark. All your comments and stuff that you say about Fords. I got someone who backs Fords with me.
Hey, one thing I will say about her is she is a young lady driving a Ford Fusion that is a 5-speed.
Yes.
So she drives
Yeah.
manual, and she likes to drive
She
manual.
learned to drive on.
Yeah.
Well, she learned to drive on an F-150 actually that I ended up buying.
It wasn't manual though.
It wasn't
No, it's
manual. It was an
automatic.
automatic, but it was her
But her
grandpa's.
first car is a manual.
It was her
Yeah.
grandpa's. It was a one-owner truck. So I was the second owner of that truck, and man, that truck was so nice. 5.0 extended
sold.
cab. Well, there's a reason it was sold, but we won't get into that. But no, she learned to drive in an F-150. So she learned to drive in a Ford. She
Ford all
she
the
was
way,
kind of
baby.
forced into daily in a manual Fusion as much as she hated. I remember when we first got together. You
Oh my
hated
gosh.
driving that car.
Yes. So I started driving manual before me and Zach even met, and that was another way I kind of
Yeah, I was like,
got
dang,
to his
dang,
heart.
you
I
can
was
drive
like, yeah, I
manual?
can drive manual. But
She
no,
really
I could not.
couldn't.
I could
She
not.
really couldn't.
I remember I was so upset that my parents made me buy that car, and because it was cheap. It was from my
A
aunt.
family member had it, yeah.
And I remember my dad teaching me how to drive manual, and that's oh my gosh, it was awful.
It was
It was
horrible.
so bad. And I
And if
remember when me and him we were very early on in our relationship, and my
It was my
parents
first time going out with your parents. We went to Catalyst.
they made me drive that car with like 5 deep in that stupid car,
Yes.
and it was only meant for 5 people.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it was awful.
It was so
embarrassing.
difficult because like, I was just riding with them to the next spot, and they're like, "Oh, you're driving."
And I was like,
She was
okay.
having a panic attack in the driver's seat.
I missed. I missed a gear. I freaked out.
If you know Angel learning something new like that and just being thrown into it with
Yeah.
in that situation, a brand new guy that she's just now talking to,
oh
it's
my
like,
gosh, it was
Yeah.
awful.
dang. Yeah,
Well, but
that's
I've
rough.
heard some stories about as you got better at driving, getting in the Mustang.
Oh,
every
oh,
time
yeah.
you get in there, you want to beat on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Man.
can't do it anymore.
Well,
but-
when I first got that Cobra, I didn't let her drive it for a while, but then there was one time she was just like, "Yeah, I want to drive it," and I was like, "Okay." We were out in this nice area that we like, kind of taking drives out to and just hanging out in. We used to go out there and get some ice cream sometimes, but I was like, "You wanna drive it for the rest of the time?" She said, "Well, yeah." So I pulled off into a gas station. I think I filled up and we switched seats, and she pulled out of it. and tried sliding the car sideways, pulling out. First time, like one of the first times driving the car. I may have let her drive it before that, but she pulled out of the thing, tried to slide sideways, and every red light we stopped at, she dumped the clutch and squealed tires and slammed it in a second every single time. And I'm like, what are you doing?
I will say some of that was probably not entirely purposefully because that car had a lot more power than what my
Ford Fusion
does.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think.
Well,
I think the first time was probably an accident, but after that, she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna keep doing that."
It just
It
sounds
worked
like
out.
to me that you're meant to drive. You're meant to
Yeah.
race.
Oh heck yeah, and I had fun in that car. I mean, as much as I tell Zach I hate his Mustang. I'm like, oh, I'm so ready for it to be done. I mean, I want it back.
Yeah,
I want a Mustang back. I was so sad when he first wrecked that Mustang and the Cobra, and then we ended up giving it to him. But
yeah.
it's okay. It needed to be done. We couldn't afford to keep up with it. So.
Yeah. That was about the time we had just moved out, and things just
Yeah.
kind of worked out in a situation where he had a good car that I could buy off him, and I had a good car that he wanted that I could
Yeah.
sell to him. So it just kind of
And it just
worked out pretty well.
It needed maintenance that we couldn't really you couldn't.
It
we
was
couldn't keep up with and we couldn't do.
Yeah, it was a rough situation. You know, if a lot of y'all have listened, know exactly where we're at. We were young. We kind of had just gotten out on our own, and money was tough. So that's just kind of the way it was for a little
So,
bit.
but now, just like all my cars, they're here for you all to drive. And
Yeah.
y'all can
Well, I
take
mean,
it out
we just
anytime you want.
took it out last week, and I mean, I got on it, and
He's like, I'm just gonna get on it once so I can show you. I can remind you.
It reminds
your
you
your love of cars.
I'll tell you what, man. I forgot how hard that thing shifts, man. It'll throw you back. I mean, man, 305 horsepower, but you feel every bit of it.
Yeah.
That car gets up and goes.
So, Angel, I know that over the years, you know, Zach being my son, he talks to me, and he's always asked me to pray for you. You know, all these years he's asked me to pray for you, even when he was not living right himself. And he's always asked me and Tanya to pray for you, and
Granny and Papaw too.
Granny and Papaw. And, you know, earlier this year, you had a life-changing experience.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit about your story and growing up and your unbelief in God.
Yeah.
And then what's led you to salvation.
Yeah. Okay. So earlier this year, I'm sure Zach's talked about it. I would say he's talked about it a lot. He's really excited about it. I couldn't even tell you the month that I got saved because it's been a blur since then. I feel like everything's kind of changed since then. But it was back in May I was saved. I remember we went to, I remember not wanting to go to church this day. I was like, I do not want to go. I was like, I don't want to go. And Zach always tried to get me to go. And I was like, well, I'll just go because Zach's going to be mad at me. So I went.
You want to know a little secret of what I would do? I would, every so often, I would go to breakfast with your parents so that I did something for you so that you'd feel obligated to go to church with
Oh my
me.
gosh.
That's what I used to do.
Well,
That's what I used to do.
Whatever. I ended up actually going to church that day, and now I couldn't even tell you what that service was about. But we went through the service, and I think I was crying the entire time.
Yeah,
I think I was.
I wasn't looking at you, and I just heard you sniffling, and I look over, and you're just bawling. I'm like, what are you crying for?
I don't like to. Okay, I don't like to. I don't like to show emotion in front of people, but I was sitting there. I was trying to hold it back. I don't even like to show. Well, okay. Sometimes I like to show emotion in front of Zach. It's hard. I don't like to talk about how I feel, but whatever. I was sitting there bawling my eyes out, and at the end of every service, our pastor, he's like, he does this thing for people who want to get saved.
It's an altar call.
Yeah, altar call. And I didn't want to raise my hand. I don't like to be in front of people. So we got into the car afterwards, and I told Zach, I said, I wanted to raise my hand, but I was too nervous, so I didn't. And he was like, what? And
well, you got to think from my perspective. I've been praying for 4 years, and there was a time, and I've mentioned this on a couple podcasts. There's a time that I was like in the pew, and I had pretty much, I was sitting there just kind of praying that God would save you, and I'd received a vision, and in my vision, I saw so vividly you walking down the aisle of church, and you got down on your knees and prayed, and you got saved that day, and that was the vision I saw. Now, it didn't happen that way, but, you know, also after that, I've also mentioned on the podcast that I cried out to God, like, why are you not saving her? What am I doing wrong? Like, what's going on? I just kind of got real. I was like, you know, I'm tired of pretending like that I'm okay with this, which it's not my choice, obviously, you know, but I'm like, I'm tired of pretending that this is okay. You know, I've prayed for 4 years. Why has things not happened? And that's why I was like so, you know, amazed. It was like it just came out of nowhere too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, me and you'd have had conversations because you've dealt with a lot of things like depression and anxiety that we've kind of tried to work through together. And I've talked to you a lot about, you just got to give it to God. You got to give it to God. And you weren't a
Yeah.
Christian at that time.
Yeah.
And then this just kind of
So yeah,
Came
you
up.
throw that on him. So then what happened after that?
Yeah.
We met back here, their house, and they prayed over me and told me how to, find salvation, and it just everything's happened from there. Okay, a lot has changed. I'm not gonna say everything's perfect because it's not ever gonna be perfect, but I feel like I'm happier. Obviously, we all still struggle, but I will say I didn't really have a religious background growing up. Now, I did technically grow up Catholic.
She was
Okay,
baptized
I was gonna
Catholic.
say I was baptized Catholic. My mom, she tried to get us in church, and we went to church on and off. I can remember as a kid, and Catholic church just wasn't really for me, especially being a kid. I feel like it's very, I don't know how to explain it. I'm not dogging it at all. It's just very ritualistic. It's not for me. Now I do remember doing my first communion, and we had to wear the white dresses, and we did this whole class for I think my mom probably still has it. She doesn't get rid of anything, but it's still hanging
not
up
a
in
lot.
my it's probably still hanging up in my closet at home.
I think it is because when we moved out, I
Yes.
remember seeing it.
Yes, and I was
When
like, I'm
helped-
not taking this
when
thing
I
with
helped
me. What am
her-
I gonna do with
When I
it?
helped her move out, it was hanging up in her closet. I was
Yeah.
like, what the crap is this?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's my first communion dress. Anyways, but yeah, we had to do a whole class and everything, and I remember doing that with one of my best friends back then, and my sister. And we had the little cracker, and then they told us, they said, don't make a face when you taste the wine. I'm a child. It's not good. And as soon as I touched my lip, I was like, but I don't know. How do you expect a child not to make a face? Anyways, it's funny. It was, yeah. So when I joined Zach's family, I feel like religion has always been a big part, of their family. It's something, they're Christians, they've gone through a lot. Being with Zach, having a relationship with God is very important in their family. And I'll be honest, I've really never understood it. Like I said, I grew up Catholic, but in my teenage years, I had a lot of issues in my teenage years. Like we all do. I feel like it's teenage angst.
Yeah.
It gets to you. So I've had a lot of issues, and they haven't left me since then. Depression, anxiety is still very prominent in my life, and Zach's always told me, leave it to God and everything, and I don't feel like it's part of the answer. It is, but it's not the cure-all, be-all. Sometimes you do need help. You need to go see somebody.
Well, sometimes God puts those people in your life,
Yeah.
though. I mean, yes, I think God can heal anyone of anything at any time.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes God doesn't heal those people for that time being because He's got something else
Yeah.
for them. Like,
Yeah.
you could pray, God, take this depression from me, but maybe God's answer to taking that depression from you is getting you to a psychiatrist
Right.
or getting you with a therapist, someone you can talk to,
Yeah.
and God puts that person in your life.
In your
Right.
life, that's
Yeah.
somebody that's going to be able to help you with
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not like I said, I'm not sitting here saying God can't heal because I've watched God heal people right
Yes.
then and
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
But sometimes the answer is God wants people to come into your life, and you can help them, and they can help you.
But like right now, you know that God can heal you from that,
Right.
but you're still in that struggle.
Hmm.
Yes, you can continue to pray, but you also are seeking, for you always confide in Zach, and Zach helps you and helps you work through it.
Right.
And at some point, I really believe God will heal you from that.
Hmm.
Right.
But He's allowing you, for whatever reason, to go through this struggle.
Right.
Well,
You
maybe
know.
this is supposed to help somebody else later. You
Yes.
never know.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just also feel like, yeah, it sucks at the time, but I also feel like it's a growth opportunity. I've grown a lot since I was a teenager, but, obviously you still fall back into it. And I know Zach and I were struggling for a while, probably over a year. And I feel like it was my fault. I was in my head a lot. And, I think we had a talk.
Yeah, we
We pulled into a Culver's parking lot, and
well, she just let it all out finally. Like she said, she doesn't like to talk about her emotions very much. She gets emotional a lot, but she doesn't talk
It's
about
over
it.
things that don't matter, but when it does matter, I don't
It's because
like
it all
to go
builds
into
up.
it.
It's because it all builds up. But like she'll like she'll cry, but it's like she won't tell me anything, and it's just like I've kind of gotta guess at it. And she's always been like that. She's like us men a lot. We don't like to tell people.
We don't open up.
We don't open up to people. And when things are wrong, we just fight through it. That's exactly
Yeah.
the way she is. She won't talk
Yeah.
to people about anything, and she'll get emotional. But it's like, I can't. I'm not allowed to. I don't hear about it.
Yeah.
So when at this point, she finally just let it all out. She told me everything that was bothering her, things that she dealt with on a daily basis, being in her head constantly. And I was like, look, we can talk to a professional. We can get you a professional. And I was like, I want to do that if that's what you want to do. But I was like, if that's not what you want to do, the only thing I can tell you is give it to God. That's all I can tell you. And I was like, I know you're not a Christian. I know you don't believe in this. I know you think it's all bogus and that it's culty and whatever. I know you don't like it. But God has helped me so much in my life, and He can help you right here.
Well,
That was
I
about
remember,
2 or 3 months before she got saved.
I remember at the time that made me so mad because, like Zach said, like, okay, I don't like to say this, but I very highly dislike Christians, and I feel like that had a lot to do with media and what type of media I was on.
Like woke and liberal kind of side of things.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna dog either side, but I feel like both sides have issues.
But that was kind of making your thought process go toward not liking Christians.
Yeah,
Because of what
exactly.
you saw on social media.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
she was. I mean, if you can't tell by I would say by the way that we look, but I don't have my piercings anymore. We got piercings, tattoos, long hair. We stay involved with a lot of music type stuff. We like going to festivals and
Yeah.
going to concerts and stuff. So we're kind of in that alternative scene, sort
Yeah.
of.
And you still can't enjoy those things and be Christian.
Yes,
That's
you can.
exactly
All right,
right.
yes,
You
you
can.
can. But the alternative scene is very anti-Christian, and
It
that's
is.
kind of what we were a part of. And I think that's something that pulled me down for a little while, is I was kind of letting that influence me instead of me influence that.
Yes,
And
exactly.
again, you can enjoy those things and be Christian, but you also have to realize where these things are making you separate from God.
Yeah, and if they come between you and God, then that's when you need to stop.
Yeah.
And I found myself at times even, and a lot of maybe people aren't convicted of this, but we mentioned in the episode with Papaw that you got to find your own salvation.
Yes.
And some people are convicted of things that some people aren't.
Yeah.
There are times where in my life I'm like, I can't listen to this certain music anymore because it's kind of separating me from God.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I listen to gospel music all the time because I don't. I rarely listen to gospel music, but there's certain stuff that I just don't listen
Well,
to
there's
anymore.
a lot of Christians that don't because Christian music is nothing but, and don't get me wrong, guys.
There's some good
There's
Christian
some good
songs out
Christian
there.
songs, but most Christian music now is nothing but praise and worship style music, and it's
Yeah.
that light contemporary, and especially dudes don't
Yeah.
care to hear
Right.
that.
Well,
all the
and
time,
I mean,
you know?
I'm into everything, literally everything, any type of music, and I'm very much into like heavy metal, and I know I'm gonna say heavy metal because a lot of guys that don't listen to metal won't know the deeper genres, but I'm in very, very deep genres. Like I've listened to death metal and deathcore and things like that, really, really heavy stuff. And I've also listened to very, very light stuff like alternative and indie pop and things like that. But you've got to realize when that starts separating you from God, that's when you need to take a step back from it.
Well,
Right.
like another podcast I listen to, Undaunted Life.
Mhm.
I'm giving him a little shout out, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, I really like his podcast. But he opens up every podcast with a Christian metal band that plays in the background.
There's there's
And
actually a lot of good, really heavy Christian metal bands.
Yeah, and he's like, I like praise and worship music in the church, but
Yeah.
outside of the church,
Yeah.
it's all metal.
That's the way
You
I
know,
feel
and-
because when I'm in the church, I feel the Holy Spirit, and I love listening. And I mean, me and her will come home singing songs that we hear in church.
Yeah.
Or they'll just
and-
like pop up in my head randomly at
yeah,
work, and
yeah,
I'll
she'll
have to
just
sing
start
it out
singing
loud.
it. Yeah, but it's like when I am in the church, I feel the Holy Spirit with that music, and I don't always get the same feeling if I listen to it outside of church, and it's like I just don't, I don't always feel the Holy Spirit if I'm just listening to it, in certain situations. So I like to listen to everything, but once again, you've got to realize when it's separating you from God, that's when you got to take.
which
a
we
step
just
back.
went way off on another
We did.
topic.
We
We
did.
did, yeah.
I think it's definitely something people need to hear.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're all convicted of different things, and you may be convicted where you can't. God does not want you to listen to any type of music that isn't something that glorifies Him.
Well, I think in
that's
this
just-
day and age, a lot of men especially,
Mhm.
okay, now a lot of men especially struggle with Christian music.
Yeah.
They just do.
I just,
you know?
me personally, I listen to stuff that relates to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of this Christian stuff that's all super praise and worshipy, yes, that's great. I love it because it relates to me and my walk with God. But I like listening to stuff that's very real
Yes.
and talks
That's-
about the struggle I go through. I listen to a lot of Appalachian country. So a lot of people that just talk about the struggle of working their job and trying to provide for their family
Yeah.
because I relate to it.
But that's one reason why I enjoy probably the biggest Christian band of all time, Skillet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they are real,
They're real.
and they're raw. They're heavier than your praise and worship
Yeah.
at church, but they're not metal.
Well, and then they
But-
talk about the struggle of
They-
the earlier stuff talks about the struggle of being a teenager
Yes.
and dealing with suicidal thoughts and anxiety and depression. It's very, very
And now they've moved into more of the everyday struggle, and really, like this last album that just come out is about what we've been going through the Biden years, basically.
Yeah.
Without saying it, that's what the whole
yeah,
album was about.
essentially. And back to to get back on
Yeah.
track. They talk a lot about the woke and liberal media that kind of
yes.
Yeah.
pushed you to this situation where you
Yeah.
felt like Christianity was culty, and you just kind of maybe not hate's a strong word, but maybe despised
But it
Christianity
just
as a
pushed
whole.
you away from Christianity.
Yeah, and then so
Yeah.
like when I told you that in the car, you were like, "Man, he's full of it." He's just saying stuff.
I remember, I didn't tell Zach this, but I remember that made me so mad when he told me that, because I'm like, I'm going through this and you're going to tell me to turn to God?
But it's
you know,
it's like we had been struggling for a year. Our relationship was falling apart, and to be completely honest, I didn't know how much longer we had left together.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what else. And I've told her this now that she's saved, because I knew she wouldn't understand before she was saved. But part of the reason that we were struggling is because I was having an internal battle with God of being unequally yoked.
Yeah.
I was having an internal struggle because if you don't know, there's a scripture in the Bible. God talks about being equally yoked and not
Yeah.
being unequally yoked. And what that means is if you're a Christian, your significant other has to be a Christian. You have to walk this path together. Christian and a non-Christian. When you get married, you're supposed to have God intertwined in your marriage.
Yep. He needs
And
to be the head.
without her being a Christian, I could not marry her because I was having this internal battle with God. It bothered me. The thing is, I never told you because I knew you would never understand. But I talked to Dad about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I was fighting with God. I think Jacob talks about doing this. I was
Yeah.
wrestling with God
Yep.
in my own heart
Over that.
and trying to justify it to myself that this is okay when it wasn't. And that's why I told you that, because I'm like, look, this is your opportunity or I'm gone.
Yeah.
And that's where we got to.
And I remember we were driving home one day after working overtime at work, and I noticed something was up those past 2 days, and we almost broke up.
Yeah, we almost
But-
ended it right then and there.
Yeah.
But God had a
Um,
plan.
Yeah. And a little bit after, I got saved, and I feel like I've gotten a little bit better. I feel like I've changed a little bit, but
It's more than a little bit. Your life has done a 180.
You've changed a lot.
You could
I'm glad you guys noticed that, because I feel like I don't notice a change in myself a lot, and I always feel guilty.
you don't. Most of the time you
Yeah.
don't. You don't feel that change, and you struggle with forgiving yourself for things
Yeah.
and
Yes.
stuff.
It's
But the
something you're
people
gonna struggle
around
with.
you see the difference.
You're going to
Right.
struggle with forgiving yourself your entire Christian walk.
Yes.
I've dealt with it ever since I really realized what being a Christian
Yeah.
was when I was about
So,
12 or 13 years old.
After
So.
you got saved, some crazy stuff kind of happened.
Yeah.
That just kind of showed you that God is real and that this really
Well, I
happened.
do want to
Yeah.
head that up with before you get into it. Yes, you got saved, but one thing that she struggled with. Well, I guess you're here. I don't know why I said she, but one thing you struggled with a lot when you first became a Christian was, yes, you believed, but there's a verse in I'm wanting to say it's something Paul wrote, and I can't think of what it was, but he asked God to help him with his unbelief,
Yeah.
and that's something you struggled with a lot. Was you had a lot of yes, you believed, but it's like you weren't all in yet. You weren't
Yeah.
like God is real. You were like, I believe he's there. He's helped me so far. I'm feeling something because I'm bawling my eyes out in church, but it's like I
Yeah.
don't know 100%. And then these things started happening.
Well, and I'm just gonna say something really quick and to get into these interesting
Miracles, essentially.
Yeah, it's so odd, and I feel like because I again am very early in my walk with God, and I feel like it was a lot more when I first started till now, but like I feel like there's a lot of things that you're supposed to believe as a Christian and you're supposed to follow as a Christian, and some of those things it's hard for me to get with, I guess.
When you've been living a certain way and believing a certain thing for 20 years. It's
Yeah.
like this just kind of sprung up, and now
Yeah.
It's hard to grasp it.
Yeah.
it's hard to grasp that this is what I got to do.
And I'm not going to go too far into it because I feel like some of it can be controversial. So I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah.
But anyways, when I got saved, and I feel like this is so crazy because Zach's like, this would not usually ever happen to just anybody. It's just,
I
they're
confirmed to
weird.
her that this was a sign. That
Yeah.
she was like, I don't know if this is a sign or if I'm just crazy. This is definitely a sign from God. When you hear it, you'll agree.
Yeah. So this first one, now I don't feel like every person would understand. Okay, you have to have a septum ring. Okay, please Here, get with me on this
And
one.
if you don't know what a septum ring is, it's the
this.
piercing right in the middle of
Yes.
the nose that goes between the
Yeah.
nostrils. Anyway.
So I can't remember if this happened a little bit before I got saved or very early on.
It was before you got saved.
Was it?
It was very, very. It was right before, because I remember you told me.
Because I was believing in God. Like I was like coming around to it at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was questioning it. She was
And
asking me questions at that point.
I remember I was at work and this was when I was doing assembly and I was building food warming cabinets and I was on the floor like in a factory. Okay.
Production floor.
Yeah, a production floor. Yeah. Okay, hear me out. So I remember, and this happens to me. This never happens to me, but I used to have a septum ring where it was just the two little balls, and it was like a horseshoe. And I remember the ball fell off, and I was like, I am not gonna find this thing. I'm like, I just now noticed it's gone, and I thought I felt it roll off about like 10 minutes ago, but I didn't think anything of it, and I was just going to mess with my nose ring, and I was like, it's gone. Okay, I'm not gonna find it. I wasn't being serious, and I was like, God, if you're real, I was asking in my head, I was like, God, if you're real, please help me find the ball to my nose ring, okay? Please, I don't have any more at home. And, you know, maybe 5-10 minutes later, I was taking the cabinet off the table, and I looked down on the floor, and I just happened to look down, and something caught my eye. At that time, I felt like it was just fate, because it caught my eye. I was like, I need to look down. I looked down, and my septum ring is like on the entire other side of what it fell. Or the little ball was on the entire other side of what it fell. And I was like, okay, this is weird. So I think I asked my coworker about it because she's Christian. And I was like, is this a sign? Because I feel like I'm kind of crazy right now. I don't know what's going on. And she was like, yeah, like anything's a sign if, you really believe it's a sign. It's all personal. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. So I think I walked over or called Zach or whatever. And he was like, yeah, babe, like, that is a sign.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay. Well, it's,
You were
I wasn't
still
fully,
struggling.
I wasn't fully convinced.
Yeah.
And then a little bit after, I was saved. And obviously, I started believing more. But before I was saved, I was kind of starting to believe. And this was kind of like one of my turning points. I know it's dumb, completely personal, but...
Well, I mean, you prayed for God to pretty much reveal himself to you,
Yeah.
and he did.
In
right there.
a little way, but
Yeah.
it was a big way for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because...
It was
Again,
that turning point.
I feel like that was so personal. Like, it'd probably be dumb to anybody else, whatever. But, of course, it happened to me, and it's what
Yeah.
happened. So, and then, so, this second one, I used to wear, and I don't know if you know what they are, evil eye amulets. It's a little eye, it's a little blue eye, and people use them as, like, protection amulets. And obviously, if you're Christian or it's just not something you believe in because you have Jesus Christ. And I had this anklet. It was like a sterling silver anklet. I had bought it like probably at TJ Maxx. It was a cheap anklet. And I was wearing that for probably like over a year at that point. I had no issues. And I remember looking down one day and there was no reason it should have broke. And this was like a week after being saved. There was no reason it should have broke. I look down, and I tug on it, and just breaks. It falls off my ankle. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, because, again, I haven't had any issues with it. And this was just, I just feel like it was a sign, because it was so soon after being saved. He's like, you don't need this anymore. This is not for you anymore.
Mm-hmm. You're very, very much into a lot of the, like, charms of like protection and like crystals and things like that, which I don't really think you believed that a lot of them had any of the powers they did. Yeah. But like, I mean, there were certain things that you would get because they said that they would give you this sort of thing
Yeah.
like peace
Yeah.
or healing or
Yeah.
things like that. And it was just like, oh, well, I'm just going to have these because they could help, you know?
Yeah. And I remember at the time, too, I was debating getting an evil eye tattoo on the back of my neck. And I was actually debating that for a while. Probably a good thing I didn't ever get it, but
probably not. It'd have to be getting a big cross to cover that up.
Yeah.
or something.
You had another very similar incident happen too right after that one.
yeah. So this one, again, kind of very similar. This was, I think, maybe
It was
month
about
or
a month
two
to-
after being
It
saved.
was because we had just started the podcast and you called me while we were about to record.
Okay, yeah. So, again, with the evil eye, I had a giant, I was cleaning one day, okay, and I had a giant one hanging above one of our doorways. And I remember cleaning that entire day. I was so tired. I was so ready to sit down. My back was hurting. I just wanted to sit down and rest. And I remember sitting down and looking up, and I just looked up at the evil eye, and something about it, it made me feel so sick to my stomach. I don't know what it was. I don't know what came over me, but I was like, I have to get this thing, like, I have to take this thing down. So I grabbed a chair from the kitchen, and I took it down, and as soon as I picked it up, it was, like, oily. I still don't really know how to explain that. I even called Zach about it, and I was like, there is no reason.
Well, the only thing I could think of at the time was like, this was on a doorway heading toward our kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if it was in the kitchen, it would make sense because, you know, we cook bacon and burgers and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you might get a
Grease
little bit.
might fly
Yeah.
up into the air a little bit. And that
But not where it was located.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
it was located away from the kitchen, through a hallway, and on the back side of the doorway, facing the opposite of the kitchen.
And y'all don't smoke or anything like
No,
that.
no.
So it wouldn't be anything.
I mean, the only thing that burns in our house is candles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then like even still like with what Zach was saying, there's no way it could have been like grease. There's
Mm-hmm.
no way it didn't feel like that. And I don't know. This is kind of nasty. I smelled it, and it smelled like vinegar. And I was like,
It
okay,
had a
this
pungent
is-
odor to it. It didn't
Yes.
smell good at all.
Again, I don't really know what to make of that. I still don't. Still creeps me out. But I threw it away immediately. Took the trash out.
Well, you had, at that point, gotten rid of every evil eye in the house.
Yeah.
And that was the only one left because it's kind of unnoticed because it just hangs above a
And I
doorway.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, and we just got busy and we forgot about it.
yeah, and it's so funny because our house used to be covered in these things, and
It wasn't, like, crazy.
It wasn't crazy, but we had like evil eyes just like everywhere. I mean, she had jewelry, things like that, and we had one single cross that sat by the door, and it's because I told her I was like, we got to have a cross in the house. I was like, you get all this nonsense that is just bogus. I get the cross.
Yeah.
That's it.
I got
so,
to pick the cross out too.
yeah, she did get to pick the cross out, of course, because she got designed. I think it's so funny now because we've just redecorated our living room recently, and the amount of God that's in our living room now is kind of funny. We have
Oh,
like
yeah.
God bless this house and stuff
'Cause
like that
I-
all over the place.
We redecorated the living room. It's my little granny living room.
Yeah,
okay?
we've got our living room looks like a Cracker Barrel. That's what it is. That's what it is.
little
Cracker Barrel.
wall sconces with the taper candles.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
my
man.
goodness.
Yeah,
That's what I grew up in.
our living room used to be so cool, man. We used to have a guitar hanging up on the wall with records
Oh,
and
man.
all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, but
rock
now-
and roll magazines and stuff hanging on the wall.
But now you're married, so you can't be cool no more.
Yep.
She helped me design it. She helped me design it the first time. I mean, we had like
Listen.
Grateful Dead records hanging up. I had like Tyler Childers and like Peach Pit
Yeah,
and
well.
Van Halen and Led Zeppelin, all that
Yeah.
stuff hanging up.
But it's more comforting. You walked in the living room, you're like, oh, I'm home.
I don't know.
I got all the
I don't
little
like it.
granny blankets and tapestry blankets.
Get used to it, buddy. Married life.
Our house gonna start smelling like old people soon, I guess.
Mothballs. And then okay, so this was probably I want to say a little bit after the second Evil Eye
I
situation.
think it was before.
I want to say it was after
I don't know, maybe
because it
the
was a little
time's
bit
wrong.
later on in my walk. And again, Zach and I, we kind of talk about struggling and everything. And at the time, and even still now, I struggle a lot mentally, and we were struggling with our jobs. And I was like, I just need a sign that it's going to be okay. Like
Our money situation was very tough, and your depression was hitting very hard at that point.
Yeah.
It was honestly probably a rough couple weeks at that point. It was like you sometimes you have bad days and sometimes you have good days, but at that point we didn't have a lot of money and every day was a bad day.
I was gonna say, like, it felt like every day was a bad day,
Yeah.
and it's just,
Good moments. We had
Yeah.
good moments. They weren't days. They were
Yeah.
moments. It
and
was
it's just
bad.
like, I was like, I'm like in a void. I'm being sucked into a void, and I'm like, it's never gonna get any better. And I was like, I just need a sign that's gonna get better. And I remember I was cleaning Zach's nightstand because it's always messy. Whatever, mine's always perfectly spick
Oh, I
and
walk
span.
upstairs and I have something in my hand and it gets set on the nightstand.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
At a time, there'll be like 3 drinks on the nightstand. I'm like, dude, like, you gotta throw these out or take them down to the sink.
Yeah,
Okay?
usually there's about 3 cups on the nightstand.
I was going through this because it was sitting on Zach's nightstand.
So
and it's,
for those that aren't watching on YouTube, this is a Bible Promises daily devotional, like these little cards. Billy Graham,
tiny
I guess
little
his
things, if you can kinda
company
see.
wrote
Put it
them.
out,
Yeah,
yeah.
put it out, and they're just these little verses that are supposed to help you. Like you're just supposed to pull one every day and read the verse on. I think they're front and back. So
Yeah, I was just looking at them. They are. But I remember going through this one day, and again, I was asking God. I was like, I just need a sign that it's going to be okay. Because again, I felt like I was in like an endless void. And I drew one, and I was like, I need my sign. I'm like, I need to know it's going to be okay. And I remember drawing, so again, they're just little verses.
little cards.
Yeah, little cards with verses. They're tiny little things, and there's so many of them.
I would say there's probably, what do you think, at least 200?
Probably 365.
Yeah.
365
Yeah, that would make sense.
I don't know. I was given this by Granny. Like,
I don't know. It might be half of that since there's one front and back.
yeah. Well, I was given this by Granny years ago. Like I
Yeah.
was a child when she
Yeah.
gave me this, and used to I'd pull one every day.
Yeah.
But I don't anymore. But I have it set next to my bed in case I need it.
Yeah.
So anyway, go back to what you were saying. Sorry.
Well, I remember drawing Isaiah 41:13, and Zach read this at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to go ahead and read it again for you. That says, "For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, I am the one who helps you." And again, it just felt like a relief, even though, things obviously weren't going to get better immediately. It was just a relief that I knew God was listening to me.
Yeah.
And
That
he
he
had
was
my
in
back.
control.
Yeah.
Well, and not even 6 months later, we're both in way better positions than we were financially.
Yeah,
We're
God's
making a
answering
lot of
your
money.
prayers.
I think the mental side of things is still a struggle, but we're working at that too. So, things are getting better every day.
It's like, again, this didn't happen very long ago. So I mean, obviously things don't happen in an instant.
Yeah.
Well, our
And-
relationship's gotten stronger since then too.
Oh, definitely.
Well, I look at those signs. To some, may be really little to nothing, but for
Yeah.
you, they showed you God.
Yeah.
God is real. God has my hand.
Mhm.
Right.
He's leading me through, even though I still struggle. He's guiding me. And that verse, when I was a teenager and up through, my 20s and 30s, that was my favorite verse.
Yeah.
So when Zach told me that, I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite verse because I leaned on that verse a lot because as a teenager, I like prayed and read the Bible and said, I need a verse. Everybody's got a verse. I need
Yeah.
a verse. And that was my verse.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like verses like that, those are the ones that always speak to me the most. That's
Yeah.
not my favorite verse, but it's became one of my favorites
Yeah.
because it's like verses where when you're in the deepest depth that you could possibly be in, and you get a verse like that.
Yeah.
And I mean that's why my favorite verse is
God
Psalms
telling
23:4.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's very similar to that verse. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how far in the pit I am.
God is walking beside
Yep,
you.
yep,
God
God's
is
right
walking
there.
beside you.
And I want to also preface this and this happening with I had a lot of letdowns before this as well. Like Zach was talking, we both just now got into better positions job wise, and I remember applying for like 2 or 3 positions at my job, and I got turned down for all of them. And I want to preface this verse by saying I was let down a lot, especially at my job. I remember at the time I had applied for like 2 or 3 positions that
One of which you were very, very qualified for.
I probably should have got. But I realize now that God had a plan for me.
Yeah.
It was all for
And-
this because I'm pretty sure you're making what, $2 or $3 more than what that position
Yeah,
pays. So
and I feel like it's a lot better fit for me as a person.
oh yeah,
Your
So-
personality fits the position.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's absolutely perfect.
Did I?
for you.
I don't think I really wanted to be a team lead,
Yeah,
but
it
I
was-
wanted it for the money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, we were struggling financially, and you know, we're people that like to travel. We like to go to concerts and you know, do stuff with music. And at that point in our lives, we were, you know, up until very, very recently, we were living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
You know, and I had just enough money coming in that I could, you know, work on the car a bit here and there. But that's one reason the car's taking so long. Is
Yeah.
it's like I can only put money into it when I get it.
Yeah.
And same with her. She can only buy the things she wanted to buy when it came around.
Yeah.
And there were some weeks it just didn't. Some weeks it was like we were paycheck to paycheck, and God blessed us both with these, you know, positions making a lot more money, and
Well,
it's something we've prayed about for a
When
very
you're
long
young,
time.
it's difficult.
It's very
Yes.
difficult.
And it takes a while to get yourself in a position where you don't have to struggle.
Mhm.
And you guys are getting there.
Yeah.
You know, and now you're going to be in a position to where you can, you know, save toward a home and, you know, a house and
Mhm.
That'd be nice.
Get her a nice new car.
A new car,
do
yeah.
things.
Maybe if this whole racing thing pans out well, maybe a race car for her.
Yeah.
Let's get a new daily driver first.
Yeah.
Let's worry about
we
that.
definitely need a new daily first.
You guys, God's blessing you.
Yeah.
And he's showing you things. He's using you.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, if you all have enjoyed Angel doing scriptures, send her a comment. You know,
Yeah.
let her know
Let her
because
know. We need help.
hey, I think that she's a good fit for the podcast,
Yeah.
and let her know that because she needs some encouragement, and we would like to have her on here more.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that, you know, God's helped us through a lot of things, and He continues to bless us all the time. And yeah, we struggle, and a lot of it's mental. You know, I mean, we've got the financial down, but we've got to fight through the
Yeah.
mental struggle, and we got to just remember to lean on God.
God.
And if y'all are dealing with anything like any mental struggle, you know, lean on God for sure, because God can heal you 100%. But you also need to, when God brings someone or something into your life to help you through things, you got to be willing to accept that as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Sometimes God will bring a person into your life
Yeah.
to help you. Sometimes God will bring
a
a
counselor.
hobby, so, you know, anything
Yeah.
like that into your life to help you through whatever mental struggle you're
Yeah.
going through. And get help. If you need help, get help for
Yes.
sure.
Yep.
Dude,
because
don't wait. The longer you wait, the worse things get. and
what
you
you're
need help.
going through isn't just affecting you.
Yes.
It's affecting your family
Yeah,
too.
well, and you know, that's something that I think we deal with, is because whenever she was probably in the darkest depression that she was in our relationship, was the furthest that we were apart,
Yeah.
and it just drove a wedge right between us,
And
and
it
it was
will.
like,
Yeah.
oh, she's in a bad mood today, let me stay away,
Yeah.
because you know, and it's not something that she could really help it, but it was
Yeah.
like. And I saw it was something she couldn't help, but it was just like, what am I supposed to do about
Yeah.
it? So just get away.
So
Right.
I also think a huge thing is when you have these thoughts and you feel your mind is going in that direction, okay, get into the Word.
Yes.
And if you're in the
Pray.
Word daily, that also helps to keep from that mindset coming to you.
Something that
But-
has helped me the most when anything, you know, arises, whether it's, you know, I'm struggling with faith or struggling with trust or struggling with, you know, anything mentally, is when I am consistently in the Word, consistently going to church and keeping people around me that are like-minded as me. That is what helps me the most. I never feel closer to God. I never feel happier, you know, and my
In those
relationship's
times.
better, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So you just gotta get in it and stay in it.
Yep.
Staying in
Trust
it's the
God.
hardest part, but get in it and stay in it.
Yep.
Yep.
So I think that Angel's story is a great story from being a teenager and not really knowing anything about God and listening to social media and letting that lead you to not believe it, that Christianity is
I
for
mean,
you.
the
you know?
the media likes to portray Christianity
Yeah,
as
and-
like the worst. So
To where now she's gotten saved. God is helping her. Her daily walk is she's growing stronger each day. We've watched her grow, and we love it that she's part of our family. and it's been exciting. It's been exciting to
Yeah.
see.
Yes.
And I know it has been an answer to prayer for Zach for a long time.
Yeah.
So, guys, I just want to say that if you've enjoyed this podcast and it has helped you, share it, okay? Share it with somebody you think it may help. Share it with somebody who may be like Angel was and don't believe in God, don't believe that, Christianity is worth looking at. It's just cultish or whatever. If you know somebody like that in your life, share this podcast with them. They can hear her story.
A lot of people are searching for something, and they just don't know what it is. They
Exactly.
believe something's there. They just don't know what it is. Everybody is searching for something.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
God is that answer. God is that's going to fill that void. And, that thing you're searching for is Christ's love. So
is.
you've just got to accept it, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of where Angel came to, is like she searched and searched and searched and, came to realize that it was right there in front of her the whole time.
That's right. Well, Zach, on that note, why don't you send us out?
All right. Everybody like, subscribe, comment, leave us constructive criticism. Any ideas to better the podcast, we're all ears. This is not super easy for us to do. So we will take all the ideas that y'all got. Ideas for new podcasts, let us know. We've got some fun stuff planned coming up next year. And I'm very excited to talk about that in the future.
Yep.
So,
Upcoming episode.
stay tuned. And
Where can they find us?
they can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Facebook, iHeart, Amazon, Apple,
Yep.
everything. Anywhere you get your podcast, we're there.
Yep. So, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. And we will see you next time.